Oh boy. That way? Do I have slides? Can you hear me okay? I promise this is my notes. I will not be checking Twitter on here. Am I visual? Is there a button? What do I do? I'm sorry. All right, I've already screwed this up. But anyway, I'm really glad Andy kind of disavowed the word disruptive yesterday, because that makes me feel a lot less fraudulent, because I've always felt like I just kind of went with things that were already around me, as opposed to trying to fight things. How about now? Okay. No? Anyway. Hey, look at that. Oh, okay. At first I wanted to match my slide, you know? I wanted to say hello, because that's where we got started. Honestly, I draw the way I draw. Whoa. Okay. I'm going to use the keyboard, because that's something my primitive brain understands. I draw the way I draw because of the Mac. I actually started drawing those faces while staring at the Users and Groups control panel in OS 7. And, you know, I decided to add boners to it. And jerks. And one thing you'll notice if you do a daily comic strip is that you are slowly computer modeling all your personality flaws and ensuring that you will not wind up in any holodeck programs in the future, because no one will want to hang out with you. And you probably also know the Red Robot, so I would like to start the whole arc of doing a webcomic strip with Red Robot, because you probably also know Exploding Dog. I hope, maybe. That's Sam. Sam was actually my neighbor in college, and he called me up this is when you used phones to speak. He called me one day and he was like, how do I put things on the internet? And I was like, oh, well, hold on, let me put Go Live on a zip disk and I'll walk over, you know? So this is, I love people who get my jokes. So we did that, and he started posting drawings, you know, on the internet, and he got, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, it might be before your time, but he got slash-dotted. And because of that, I was like, I want to do this, you know, like I want to draw a comic strip. And, oh, what's that? It's a title. I also used all caps Futura, which I predict about 75% of the slides here will have today. So, I mean, I assumed I would just make a website and, you know, get some traffic, and I would do what every nerd my age wanted to do if you drew comics. You wanted to make comic books. You wanted to submit them to the system. You wanted to get them in the stores. You know, you wanted to, I was going to use notes. Why did I not do that? You wanted to succeed the way you always thought you were supposed to succeed. But the thing is, it didn't really work that way. I actually quit my job before I made any books, because I put the strip up there and people liked it, you know, and I just kept doing them, and I kind of got hooked on it. And much like the Wookiee, the computer won. And so I went from, you know, I mean, working for Dilbert, basically. I was working for the telephone company, and had some time and a little money, and did all my promotion and stuff while I was at work. Did all my, you know, email from stuff, and did no work. Did no work. And then a couple years later, I was able to quit, because luckily, I like t-shirts, and I don't care who knows it. I will wear t-shirts until I do not fit in t-shirts, and at which point I will just cosplay as Jabba, and it will be there. And in fact, a lot of you may not know me from the comic strips, but may know the t-shirts, because one of my favorite emails is, yeah, I don't like your comic, but I really like your t-shirts. And I'm like, sure. And it's like, you have subsidized these guys, you know, like to read their strip. And I mean, it's fun, you know. I mean, there was this thing, I don't know if you guys remember this, it's very obscure, it was called the PayPal, that was coming out about this time. It was this cool new thing that nobody hated yet. And if you combined comic strips, you had an audience, and then I knew a guy who made t-shirts, and I wanted t-shirts, and just, you know, it all kind of went together. And you know, as long as you're not afraid to go to the post office a lot, you can do that. And for a few years, I was living just happy on t-shirts in internet land. There were clouds, you know, puppies. I mean, occasionally I got in trouble. Though, if you can't read that, that's a cease and desist from Lucasfilm, because my friend wore her shirt to work at Lucasfilm. God bless you, Bonnie. But, you know, it's all right, actually. The beautiful thing about a cease and desist letter is you want them. You get the cease and desist letter, and you happily comply with the letter of the law after telling everyone that on this date you can't sell this anymore. And that is way better than putting things on sale. So, but then I found out actually after the fact that Chewy is a nickname for Jesus, and I was just like, screw you guys, I'm putting it back up, because you know what, I'm talking about Jesus. But the problem was I got a little into this, and I was a little arrogant, and I kind of got a phone call one day. I got a phone call from a guy who headhunted comic strips for the newspaper. You know, so I went from like working as Dilbert to working along with Dilbert, you know, which I mean is high art here. I mean, my arc of my life is just pure art. And I agreed like a moron because I assumed, hey, this is the big time. You put in your time, you do your internet thing, your mail packages, you know, you live, but then you sell out. That didn't work. If only I had been in a good newspaper, I think I might have done better. But I need to get that framed. That is my favorite newspaper. But the mistake I made was believing that the system worked, you know, and that being in the papers equaled income. You know, I mean, I assumed that there was still room to do that on Earth. There isn't. Because nobody prioritizes the newspaper comics page anymore. You know, newspapers are great, they're important, but they no longer have an editor in charge of the comics page. And anytime you change anything, unlike the internet, it is a zero-sum game. Like if I show up and Kathy is bumped out, oh, I've gotten that. Oh, this is terrible. Will you bring back Kathy? At which point, you know, you say to yourself, you know what, I'm doing my thing, God bless everybody, you know, that's just the way it is. But nobody wants new things in an old medium like that. And the one thing I did right was I kept doing my website on the side and maintained my t-shirt and my merchandise rights. But I was doing 12 days a week worth of comics. And that's how you get when you're doing 12 days a week worth of comic strips. And I mean, I was just very, very lucky that, I was very, very lucky that there was something in the contract that let me get out of it, and that I had continued to do what I do online direct to fans and direct to readers, because I'd be dead. I mean, I'd be working for the phone company again, you know? And I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist putting that in there. And then, believe it or not, about a year and a half after I left the newspapers, they folded their whole syndication operation. And yeah, it was all gone. And I was like, well, this was a really great decision. I'm glad I signed on for this. And luckily, though, got out of it relatively unscathed, and then got to enjoy the economy collapsing, which was fun. But then, you know, things got a little brighter. And I'm going to cop to being wrong about a few things to Andy right there in the middle of this. First, though, I mean, I managed to, now that I had more time on my hands, I started branching out into more neat merchandise, like these socks here, all thanks to Twitter and Portland, believe it or not. I met a company called Sock It To Me here in town. They are wonderful. If they're ever posting a job, go apply for it just so you can go see their warehouse. It's just like, just even if you're overqualified, just go over. They're really nice. And that has been wonderful. I've also been playing with, every once in a while I'll do like a special project, you know, like instead of doing a comic strip, I'll do a product, you know, because they're the same thing. And those are the Marker of the Beast. Those are my satanic Sharpies. And those are my satanic, whoops, hey, oh, there is stage there. That's my satanic sticky notes, which I do these kind of things in October. So I'm trying to figure out what the iteration of it will be this year. So please feel free to influence me if you see me this weekend. So I have to decide like next week. And then the part about Andy is I met you, what was it, 2009 at South by Southwest? And you were like, dude, have you heard about this thing called Kickstarter? And I was like, I don't know, man. That sounds hard. You know, like it sounds like, well, thank you. Because I honestly, iBooks came out this year, and I'm a sucker. I have to play with formats. I will waste my time screwing with anything I can do. And I was about to hit 3,000 comics on my web side of things, not counting the syndication stuff. So I wanted to celebrate, and I figured, you know what, let's see if we can make an ebook, make it DRM free, give it away, and let people sponsor it. You know, see what would happen. I tried to raise $3,000 to make a 3,000-page book, because, you know, that's what you do, right? And then it wound up going to 60,000, and I actually wound up being able to do manufacturing, which was really fun. So I wound up making about 2,000 of these thumb drives to collect the books on, which was a blast. And I don't know if you've ever cloned 2 gigs of data onto 1,000 thumb drives, but you have to have a really, really understanding girlfriend. And I mean, just a little carnage to go with it, all the heads. God, that was fun. I really want to do more manufacturing, but I mean, it's so beautiful to go from where we would just put up a t-shirt because you can only afford to make a few dozen t-shirts on your own, to having a big pile of money and like ordering stuff, like molding things, like making electronics. I mean, I wouldn't call this complicated, but I'm also not very smart. So it really works for me. And you know, there's a little more. I got to sign a whole bunch of them. A fan of mine sent this to me. He took Red Robot out on a little adventure. They went camping, I believe. And it's just great because you would never ask people for a lot of money, you know, but the fact is if you give them something they want, they will give it to you. And then you can try, and I still have a little work to do on this, but you can do more than you thought because people are more enthusiastic than Catholic Guilt Me is willing to ask for. And it was a really wonderful surprise. I managed to get most of these out. I still have to do a little shipping and a little prints and stuff, but I'm pretty pleased to have mailed out about 1,000 of these things. And we're at, God, I'm moving fast. I hope this hasn't been too short, but and it kind of leads me to where I hope we wind up with comics. And I think where we wind up with comics is also where we will wind up with magazines and where we will wind up with, probably we already are with music. And that is, maybe we're going to get diversity back. You know, like when I got started in that first slide of comic books, those were all Superman, well, and the A-Team. But if those are not superheroes, I don't know what is. But in these comics, you may notice, this is like from 50, 60 years ago. I mean, you've got cowboys, you've got Peanuts, you've got Jules Verne for some reason. And that's what you wind up with in webcomics because there's no distributor, there's no buy-in, you know, there's no big infrastructure, there's no Disney owning it, you know, forcing you to kill these characters so that you get your next #1 to sell more. And I think if you combine the diversity of webcomics with the fact that Apple and Amazon have now trained us like animals to buy little things, we actually might have a system where t-shirts aren't even necessary. Like maybe I'll just die and become a ghost, like, you know, Anakin Skywalker, and move on to this. And I'm hoping that, I'm really hoping we can go forward with that. Because better than apps, like people expect to pay for an upgrade to their comic book. They don't actually they want, you know, you sell them a Twitter app one time, they want to use it for the next 18 years and get it for free. But luckily, people like to buy extra comic books. So, golly, it's already been almost 13 minutes out of 15. What a time. So, I just wanted to shout out to Twitter because I love Twitter, and I don't think I would have survived the whole arc of newspaper syndication without Twitter, because as message boards and blogs kind of turned into festering comment holes, I've really found that Twitter has been a wonderful thing. And unlike Facebook, no one I went to high school with follows me on Twitter. And that's it. And I would just like to end things with some donuts. Andy was saying don't go to Voodoo Donuts because it's for tourists. And I would say go to Delicious Donuts, which is a little bit that way. And that's really, you know, that's comics. Thank you. Should I take my